Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Pocket Razors channel, and welcome to another episode of Pocket Talk. Tonight, we have another very special guest with us, and that special guest would be Said Stevie. So, without further ado, let's get this conversation started, and let's get Mr. Said Stevie welcomed in here. Stevie, how you doing, my man?
Doing
Welcome.
well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much
Watched
for being here.
the first, saw the first couple of these, and then looking forward to the one you got coming up. So,
Yeah, very
yeah,
cool. Very cool. Very cool. Just as a quick recap for people that maybe haven't seen those first ones, generally what we're doing here on Pocket Talk, and we're going to throw the floor to Stevie for the most part tonight, is we just want to hear hear the story. How did Said Stevie become Said Stevie? I think there was a trip through a Stevie Wonder Woman phase in there that hopefully we'll hear a little bit about. But how did Stevie become Said Stevie? Where did this channel come from? How did he get into knives and EDC and the types of things that interest most of us here in the community? So, Stevie, it is kind of your platform, my man. I'm not going to hit
sure.
you with any hard surprise questions or anything. You take it back as far as you want to go, my friend, and we'd love to hear your story.
All right, buckle up, folks.
Let's do
Um,
this.
uh, so no, you mentioned Stevie Wonder Woman. That's what a lot of people know me as originally, and that's a childhood nickname. I've had that nickname since first grade, probably.
Okay.
There's a jerk kid, David, that I went to elementary school with. Everyone, yeah, so I've always been Stevie.
Okay.
My name's Steve, obviously, not Steven. I'm Steve. And just my whole life I've been called Stevie. And as a kid, kids are always trying to make fun of whatever name you got, and it was always Stevie Wonder, Stevie Wonder, Stevie Wonder, Stevie Wonder. Well, then that jerk kid David came up with the brilliant Stevie Wonder Woman, and it was meant as like a teasing, and I hated it, but it stuck. And all my like early elementary friends growing up called me Stevie Wonder Woman, and later on in life, it just kind of stuck. And when I started on social media, creeping into social media, I just thought I'd go with it. And so it was funny early on when nobody, knew what I looked like. Um, People assumed that I was a chick. And it was funny in the chats. I had a couple of funny stories. We'll get into it too much, but
Yeah.
he's told the story plenty of times too. Mateo from M Bomb
Okay.
definitely thought I was a chick. It was like, hey, you mind if I give you a call? And I
Oh,
was like, oh, sure. Gave him my number. I thought he wanted to talk about jerky,
he
And
did. Just a different kind of jerky.
about 30 seconds into the phone call, Mateo goes, "Hey, bro, I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were a chick." So I was like, "Oh." Um, and that's
Oh,
happened a couple of times, but yeah, didn't think I was ever gonna start a YouTube channel. I was just part of the community. Was getting to know everybody through Big Reds, SKL, Zach's um, live stream, mainly like Grateful Panic in the old Grooves Day Night Live.
mhm.
That's where I got to know a lot of people as Stevie Wonder Woman, and then started doing some stuff on Instagram. And I was already friends with Lefty Kevin,
Okay. Yep.
and he invited me on to do one of his Thursday night lives. And I didn't have a channel, no or aspirations of ever starting a channel at all. And after doing that, he was like, "You should start a channel." And I was like, "I don't know the first thing about doing anything like
Mhm.
that." Uh, I forget what year what that was. I think 2021. Yeah. After a couple of days, thought it over a little bit more. I was like, "All right, I'll give it a go." I do the easiest stuff possible. Um, I have a webcam set up in my office to do work meetings and whatnot,
Hmm.
and so I just started talking into my camera and uh, didn't script anything. I think my first video, which nobody likes to watch their first stuff. I had just gotten in a Chavez Redención Street Tanto. So I
Uh-huh.
was like, I guess I'll just talk about this. And I didn't think anything out at all. I just hit record, no editing, no nothing, and just uploaded.
Nice.
And yeah, just kind of started from there.
That's the
Um,
Chavez, Ultramar. Is that the one you're talking about?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I've still never watched it.
Really?
Still never.
I watched it earlier tonight, and I love going back and watching people's first videos.
Oh,
Obviously, I'm not that far removed from my very first stuff, right? And going into
yeah.
this, it was like, where did channels start? I mean, I went back and looked at a lot of channels, where they started, how they started, when did they get their face in front of the camera, that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
you know?
Hmm.
And dude, your first video didn't suck. I'm just saying. I just watched it. I mean, I get what
Oh,
you're saying, because I've been
I
going
just
through that too, where it's like I wish I could kind of go back and redo that one at some point or what. But everybody says
yeah.
your first stuff is your worst stuff. So
Yeah, and when I say I've never watched the whole thing. I've watched
mhm.
little snippets of it, like when people commented. And it's weird. It still gets. I think every once in a while, people go back and look at people's first videos because every once in a while, I'll get a couple of hits on it, and I think it's weird. But yeah, kind of always did the front facing, but then I went a long period without doing front facing because I got tired. All my thumbnails early on, I just again talking into the camera, I just click the camera button with me holding whatever I was talking about, and one day like I had to scroll through and I just saw my face just ugh, and I mean, it's not like I have a horrible image of myself, but just seeing myself all the time was getting to me.
Yeah,
So that's when I transitioned to doing top down for the longest time, and I still do that predominantly, and keep the front facing stuff for live streams or when I'm out, doing my hiking videos and whatnot, my ramblings from the woods.
I love those, man. Those are some of my favorite stuff out there. Is when you get out into those beautiful Washington woods or wherever you're at.
Yeah, those are my funnest videos to do. I'd much rather talk about stuff while I'm out wandering aimlessly than sitting down at my desk. Because honestly, after doing it for so long, I mean, not so long, it's been a couple years though. Uh, I got a little burnt out on just talking about knives all the time. I did start, I've been into EDC. I didn't even know what EDC was until like 4 or 5 years ago. Then I was like, oh, I've been, you know, spilling my pockets and carrying junk on me my whole professional career. And then again, even going back to you had mentioned like what was your first knife? It's like I've always carried a knife. I've always carried some sort of I don't know. Always had little trinkets and whatnot on me. My big EDC for the longest time was like I remember in the 80s they were super popular. The rabbit's foot
Yeah,
keychain,
yeah. Hmm.
had that hooked to
Oh
my
yeah.
belt. They used to sell them at gas stations.
Yep.
you know,
Hmm.
literally just hanging on the rack. You could buy any color dyed lucky rabbit's foot, right?
Yep.
Um, but yeah, it was. I just was never into social media for the longest time. Then I discovered Instagram by I forget who I was looking up in the um, so it was kind of a natural progression from like the firearm side of things, looking up someone and discovered Instagram, um, and then started following more companies on there because that's marketing these days. You find out more through social media than ever before. and then started noticing people taking pictures of their pocket dumps and whatnot. I was like, oh, I've been, I was a service plumber most of my career, and carried all sorts of stuff on me, and would just take my hat off, spill my, pockets into my hat.
Right.
Um, so yeah, uh, Instagram is what led me into YouTube, though. That's where I started to get to know quite a few people. So, but yeah, EDC is something I've been into for, I guess, all of my life. I've always been into carrying stuff.
Don't you
Uh,
think most people are, and we don't
I
realize it, or we
well,
don't recognize it as being
I,
like a daily carry kind of a thing or something?
yeah, but I mean, I think it's like EDC truly, like your wallet and everything,
Hmm.
like that. Like how many people have you seen walking around that have a wallet square worn out in their back pocket?
Right.
You know, that's because they carry that exact
Right.
same thing every
Hmm.
single day. How many people do you see, especially in the trades, that have everybody knows what a pocket clip worn out pocket looks like,
Hmm.
where they start pulling away after a while. Again, whether it's chapstick or, everybody's got a luggy something or other, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think, and I count all that type of stuff. Women don't think about EDC, but they carry around a purse with them all day, and
Yeah.
they got everything they need in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And
so I think,
isn't it funny how many how much, let's call it, stuff guys take from their ladies because that we're into putting together stuff, and
Mhm.
I've had that same conversation. It's like, wait a minute, there's a purse full of stuff over there. What are
Right,
you talking about?
right. Um,
So,
uh, but so yeah, EDC is something that, and it's I don't put a stamp on what it means to be EDC. It's different to
yeah,
everybody, right? I see people going, you carry a different knife, every other day. You can't call that your EDC. Well, okay, coming down to technicalities, but yeah, I think people, especially, um I guess men, are always got their stuff, their pockets filled. So I just started carrying a little bit more stuff as I got into. I never carried coin slips and whatnot before, but I carry all that now. Um, into different pocket junk. Why? I don't know. Sometimes I don't even ever take it out of my pocket. I put it in my pocket in the morning, and then when I'm home at night, I take it out and I put it down, and I don't ever do anything with it, but I still carry it around
yeah.
on me.
But
Um,
if you needed it, it's there, right?
right, right,
Yeah, yeah. No, I've very much been the same way in my life. Pocket full of stuff or whatever. I've been accused of being, why are you carrying so much stuff in your pocket all the time? It's like, well, as a young person, if it wasn't in my pocket, I lost it. That's why.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So,
And again, being a service plumber for so long, like I used to carry um, like a thermometer, a digital thermometer on
mhm,
me, a like a HVAC style screwdriver in my pocket. Always had a flashlight, always had a knife. I still have my knife that I carried as a service plumber for years around here somewhere. Um, uh, I've always, again, carried all sorts of stuff. And now, and I still do it more often than not. I have, I don't know how many valet trays, and pockets, specific pocket dump stuff that I've purchased. And then still my hat ends up being, I take my hat off at the end of the night, toss everything into my hat, and then usually set it in my valet tray.
yeah, right. Yeah, because I believe a hat is an EDC item too. As much as
Oh
I
yeah,
wear them, they almost have to be. Not that they're there 100% anymore, but they're there most
yeah.
days. So yeah. So
No,
give a shout out to the hat lovers out there.
yeah. Yeah, I'm always a hat guy. Hat or a beanie, always. Um, except for when I'm working. I'm wearing a hat. So,
Nice.
but yeah, it's the EDC community. Again, there's so many different pockets. It really is a community in the sense that there's different neighborhoods, I guess, within the community, right? So
Sure.
you have your firearm people that are part, or community that are part of the EDC community. You have the fidget spinner
Hmm.
crew. You have the you know use your crap folks. You have the folks that just want to treat a knife as their fidget toy, right? That
Hmm.
aren't hard users of a pocket knife, but they want to carry them and they want to flick them, and everyone's obsessed with you know action and all that. And I I I like them. I like them all. I fit into all that stuff.
Yeah. So, and I think most people do. And guys being guys, it's interesting how sometimes we have such strong opinions. And it's almost always about, oh man, that I don't like that because of this or that. And when it really comes down to there is no right or wrong answer, in my opinion. We all have our personal tastes. We all have our personal styles, needs, and things like that. And you want to argue and split hairs between 20 CV and M390. Let's do it,
Right,
But I mean,
right,
at the reality, you really are splitting hairs on a lot of that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, and yeah, I've always so people get judgmental, right? Because it's
mhm,
like people will, if someone doesn't like something you like, you take that as a reflection of like, well, you instantly have to try to defend yourself why you like this or that.
yeah,
But I've been on the judgmental side of things, plenty, right? I think we all
mhm,
have.
sure,
But years ago, I realized, and it kind of more, I have always associated on the music side. I'm a big music guy, but now in all aspects of my life, if it makes you happy, I don't care what it is.
right,
And apply that to, yes, anything in your life, not just
mhm,
EDC. I might give you a little crap about it if it's not my cup of tea, right?
right,
But it's this came up on when I was one of the late night with Said Faction. We started talking about it. I forget who it was, but they're like, "Oh man, my most expensive knife is only $40. I can't hang with when you guys start talking about all the bigger stuff." And then he said that there was some other channel where everyone laughed at him because I forget what the knife was, but it was not an inexpensive budget knife. And yeah, I'm just not that guy. If that
yeah,
$40, $20, now even in the golden age of pocket knives, you can get a $5 crossbar lock from Ozark Trails. That's pretty good at the end of the day if you just need a knife. If
right,
that's what you carry and that's what makes you happy, it's all right.
yeah,
Don't worry about the, $1,000 custom,
mhm,
that we happen to be talking about. And yeah, there are plenty of those people. It's predominant, in some communities more than others, but I'm not a keeping up with the Joneses guy.
yeah,
I mean, sure, there's always a little bit of that. You're like, ooh, that looks cool, and ooh, that they got
yeah,
that. And, there's always going to be a little bit of that, but I think a lot of people get caught up in that, and you see it happen, especially when you start going through all the checks that go on in the different live streams, and some people I think legitimately put in what they're carrying, and
mhm,
then sometimes people are just trying to flex, going, "Ooh, I got
right,
this," right? And then, but there's some people that are like that, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong or good or bad, but I think that some people will think they need to feed their collection
sure,
just to to keep up, and that's fine too. Again, if that makes you happy,
yeah,
I'm never going to tell a grown adult what they should or shouldn't spend their money on. So
yeah,
but yeah, in as far as knife tastes go, yes, I have gravitated towards the higher end stuff, but there's still I still get plenty of joy. My most of my work knives that I keep in the garage are budget beaters. You
Right.
know, a SOG that I got in a tack pack box probably 8 years ago. It's probably the crappiest knife I own. Not a knock on SOG, but it's just a cheap
Right.
plastic handled, all stippled up, coated 440C serrated blade on thumb studs that are horrible. Liner lock, and that's the knife that I use quite often more than not.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, but I got a love and an appreciation for all that stuff. Again, not always, haven't always been, but nowadays, I've kind of settled in and I know what I like now and don't try to defend it. And um, yeah, just I guess more than anything, and I think a lot of people have realized that my philosophy is if it makes you happy,
Yeah.
again, I can't argue with you.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Well, and the interesting thing, and I've seen it in myself, is, and quite honestly, calling it EDC or thinking of myself as a knife collector, knife enthusiast, has only just been something that's kind of happened the past 3, 4 years. Because for many many years, aside from my hunting knives that I grew up with, that usually were not necessarily being carried every day, save the buck 110 that we all carried
Hmm.
in the 70s and 80s. I mean, that was the thing back then. But it was usually a Schrade old timer pocket knife, whether it was a single blade, two blade, three blade, but
Right.
usually just the smaller ones. And I spent that probably, I've been carrying one of those since I was probably an early teen, maybe even preteen, and all the way up until currently. And that knife, just those small knives, quite honestly, through most of the daily stuff, that worked just fine for me for 3, 4 decades. you know,
Eh,
and then you get off on these tangents and you start to learn, start to discover. My taste started off very simple, very inexpensive when I kind of came into this community, and then slowly you learn and you see, kind
Yeah.
of like what you were talking about. You see other people. Some people maybe are trying to keep up. I think other people, and I know for myself included, I had to get comfortable stepping forward as far as the budgets. And quite
Right.
honestly, my color tastes and my style tastes, and the more I finally started to get some of these, because modern folding knives were new to me just a few years ago. I was that out of touch with what was
Yeah.
going on, and when I started to discover, it's like, ooh, I like this. The more you got this one in your hand, all of a sudden, the 940, the Benchmade 940, one of my favorite knives right now. A few years ago, when I first learned what Benchmade was, I was looking into bug outs, and I saw a 940 sitting in the case next to that Benchmade that I stopped by the store and looked at. I was like, who in the world would own that ugly knife? And I don't know how long it was, probably 6 months or a year before I ever got one in my hand. And the instant I put it in my hand and opened that thing up for the first time, and I was a little bit more knowledgeable about folding knives at that point, but then I
Hmm.
understood it,
Right.
and it was like, okay. Then it was like, ah, I need one of these.
Yeah.
I get it now, but the aesthetic of it, from a purely aesthetic standpoint, I didn't understand it, and I'd never handled it until
Yeah.
you learn that. And I think that happens a lot with people as we
Yep.
grow in the community and stuff like that. So,
Big time.
yep.
Um, I carried the same knife for close to 30 years, almost every day. It just got retired out of my pocket right around 10 years ago. Um, but I carried this.
Hmm.
This is a 1944 Schrade Walden. Where's my camera?
Yep.
Auto. It does lock. It's got a little crossbar. That it's the lockup isn't as solid as it used to be, but I've had this since I was like 8 years old,
Yeah.
and this was literally my what I used for 90+% of my tasks every day forever.
Yeah.
My grandfather got this for me. I didn't know what it was until really a couple years ago, but I had lost my first knife, which was just I was in Bears, or excuse me, Cub Scouts before going into Boy Scouts, and I had a Cub Scouts little sack that they had issued us, and I dropped it off the dock while
Oh,
we were
no.
fishing, and Grandpa tossed me this. He just reached into his tackle box and he's like, "Here, you need a knife. Don't lose this one." And I was like, "I will never lose this knife." And yeah, my grandpa at 8 years old, when I was 8 years old, gave me a switchblade, and um, never. So unlike a lot of people, I think outside of the community, I've never viewed this as a weapon. I've always viewed it as a tool. Always. Never once thought, ever that I'm going to pull my knife out and stab
Right.
anything in like a self defense type thing. It's just always been a tool for me. And sometimes it was in my pocket, sometimes it was in my breast pocket. This got confiscated at school for bringing a knife to school, being an idiot and showing it around. I got stolen from me one time, and my mom had to go like get it back from the. I was so embarrassed. But like she walked to his house and was like, Your son stole my son's knife," and got it back. I'm so glad she did. I lost it for a couple years actually. Thought I lost it, and then when I moved, found it behind the leg of my bed headboard.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, thank God. Um,
Right.
but yeah, and then it wasn't until after it was uh, towards the end of my grandfather's life, I asked him about it, and he'd always ask, "Stevie, you got your knife on you?" I was either Stevie or Steve Areno to my grandfather, but yep, got my knife on me, Grandpa. And then one day, I was like, "Where did you get this knife?" I'm like, "Do you remember giving to it?" He's like, "Yeah, I remember giving it to you." He had got this when he got out of the service, WW2. He got back to New York City, and he didn't tell me like what it was. He was like, I didn't have a pocket knife on the way back. He was stationed in Germany. Came back, wanted a pocket knife, walked into the first storefront that was selling pocket knives, and just this is what he bought. Um, it wasn't until like 4-ish years ago that I had never really looked at the markings on it
Mhm.
and started to look at it. It was just a knife. Like I never thought it was a relic. And that's when I found out that it was a 1944 Schrade Walden auto. And these things are actually worth considerable amount of money. Um, People have asked if I want to get it restored or anything. No, I don't. I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, but it's still got the tip.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
the lockup isn't as good as it used to be. It does have some play there,
Sure.
but it still fires every single time. And to me, uh, like every spot on here is a battle wound that I could go back and I know what happened on a
Mhm.
couple of these throughout the years. So I would never want to restore this to
Yeah.
pristine condition. And I don't actively carry it, and I'm probably I need to have Lancelot Leather make a slip for this. Maybe I will actually bring this with me to Blade Show and hand it off to him and have it fitted for an actual slip now. But I carry it in my backpack.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the knife that I've. Um, it, and the only reason why I retired it is because I started getting into more folders. This wasn't as practical being in the service plumbing world. I needed something a little bit more substantial.
Right.
Um, and yeah, although I don't have it on me now. It's because I still ends up being one of my go-to knives out of all the knives I own. I still end up carrying the first knife I ever spent more than $100 on was a Spyderco Manix 2.
Really?
I thought I was insane. I'm just gonna spend $100 on a pocket knife, but I got tired. I was a gas station knife guy, or whatever. Um, Gerber's here, a Kershaw there, a CRKT there. Get something from Costco, in a blister pack, or at Cabela's or something,
Yeah.
some cheap nothing or other. I had gone to um, uh, Kershaw years ago and picked something up when I was traveling through Oregon. Um, but I finally started making a little bit more money and I could have a little bit nicer things.
Hmm.
And I forget where I had seen a knife with a hole on it. And I couldn't think of what it was. And just one day on my phone, looked up knife with hole, and it was Spyderco. And I was like, God, these things are so ugly.
Right.
Um, but then ended up going to a firearm and knife local show for the first time in a long time, and there was someone that had a Spyderco case and handled one, and I was like, oh my god, this thing is amazing. And I couldn't believe like the ball cage lock on it, and I was like, this thing is amazing. $100? Nope. Uh-uh. uh but then eventually it got to me and I started looking it up more, and I was like, maybe.
Yeah.
Then I was able to track one down. I don't even remember where I bought it from. Yeah, I don't even remember where I actually ended up picking that up.
Yeah.
But it was that was and then that was the knife that I carried forever.
Yeah.
That was my go-to. It wasn't until I bent the pocket clip on it one day and I had to look up. I just typed in Spyderco replacement pocket clip, and this kind of starts bringing it more full circle. That's where I discovered these folks.
Yes. Very good, folks. So,
I literally looked at, and this was probably 4 years ago. Yeah, probably 4-ish years ago. I looked up Spyderco pocket clip replacement, and scrolling through, I found Lynch Northwest, and I was like, made in Washington. Hold on, $24 for or I think at the time they might have been like $18. Like $18 for a freaking pocket clip. This thing better be awesome. Uh, and then I didn't realize like the whole deep carry aspect of it or anything. But that's where I got it, and I was like, "Oh, this sits down in my pocket further. Like this thing is amazing." And yeah, so that's what introduced me to Lynch Northwest. And
nice.
then that's when I started looking at more stuff, and that's when I found that Flightanium made a ball cage replacement. Uh, okay, I can do that. And then I realized I didn't know what I was doing taking apart my knife. And so I looked up Flightanium ball cage replacement, and I found a video from Justin, OCD for ECD,
Right.
and literally followed along doing everything he did and was able to do it. And I was like, huh. So coming from the building rifles, I'd built many rifles. I'm good at tinkering with things. But that's what made me realize, oh, I just modded rifles and whatnot are the ultimate mod, make it your own. And that's when I was like, oh man, there's so much you can do to a pocket knife to make it your own. So yeah, and that's what eventually led me down to any knife I can change a pocket clip out on. I want to,
Yeah.
if I can change some scales, I want to change the scales. I mod a lot of my stuff, have stuff sent out to have an anode, have everything. I like customized stuff, making it your own. I mean, with all the
Yeah.
different builds,
Yeah.
you got going on. That's fun.
It
And
is. It's a blast.
at the end of the day, is it worth it? Probably. I mean, that's a relative term, right? But I've always said, a good case in point. Um, I took one of my favorite knives, my Benchmade mini grip,
Mhm.
and turned this into damn near a $300 knife.
Mhm.
Is the mini grip a $300 knife?
No.
No,
No.
no. But I love this thing, and it's completely customized, you know? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
um
And that's one of the things that, I think for some of us, and I'm just looking for one here as well, for some of us, I know for me, that probably pulled me farther into the knife community, my interest in knives and stuff, because quite honestly, when I first came to YouTube, I was just trying to see what are some good affordable folding knives so I can learn about this modern knife
mhm.
situation that I felt like I was a couple of decades behind on. I was literally buying 15 to 25, $30 knives, and then you got the bug, and then one thing leads to another, and then pretty soon I see Mr. Shabazz tearing knives apart
Oh,
for
yeah,
no good
yeah.
reason, man. No good reason. And then the bug out started to be a thing. I stumbled across Zach Stuff's channel, basically trying to learn more about what is this Benchmade bug out that everybody's talking about. And sure as shooting, it didn't take long of watching a video or two of his. He was tearing it apart too. Now I've been
Yep.
tearing stuff apart and usually putting it back together all right since I was a little kid, but that's definitely in my blood. And so being able to take, that 940 I was talking about that I couldn't
Mhm.
stand, now it's one of my favorite knives.
Right.
This is probably one of my favorite mods that I've ever done. And you just buy the knife, you buy the scales, you throw them on there. But yeah, you've seen a fair amount of mine. I'm constantly putting a new bug out together or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the reasons I like the bug out so much is they're so fun to mod, you
Yeah,
know?
that's, yeah, and it's a lot of fun to
Hmm.
do. So, like, I this actually ends up being, like, one of my most actively watched videos. It's 2 plus years old, and it's one of my most, highest performing videos. But I say in it, and people will, comment on it when I'm done, "Alright, I'm now $300 into this knife." I'm not saying that to brag,
Yeah,
but to make this exactly what I wanted it to be. So is that worth it? If you ask me, probably not. Should
yeah.
you do that? Sure.
If you want to,
If you wanna do it, again, if it makes you happy, if this checks all your boxes, that's what I always say at the end of all my if I'm gonna do any sort of review. If this checks your boxes and you don't care about price, yeah, do it,
yeah,
you know? But yeah, again, um, there was nothing wrong with this knife in its original configuration. I only bought this. I had the full size. That was the second knife that I spent more than $100 on, and I left it behind at a camping trip. And so it wasn't until I think it was a couple years ago I was down at Benchmade. I was like, I got to get another mini grip or I like smaller secondary knives more.
hmm,
Um, I'm drawn to those as much as I love a big folder. I'm drawn to in having big double XL hands. I still like a good small knife,
yeah,
and the mini grip checks that for me.
yeah,
But
very
yeah,
much.
modding is just a lot of fun, and then that knife specifically, I get a lot of joy out of because I am very much, it's no secret. And, if Crispy Critter ends up watching this, he loves to keep tabs on how many times I mention I'm from Washington State, but Pacific Northwest through and through. And so that knife, having, from Oregon and, it's got a lynch clip on it, that's a Pacific Northwest knife to me, and so,
Right.
I'm, yeah, so,
Well, now that you've thrown
not,
that
not,
out, we're gonna have to give a shout out to Crispy out there and say, Crispy, in the comments of this video, we expect a count on Pacific Northwest from Stevie. So you
yep.
better see a
If
comment
if
down
he
there,
sees
Crispy.
it,
Just saying.
he'll know.
Yeah.
It's I think I'm close to. He has me at like 3,490 something was I think my last. Uh,
Right on.
I don't know how accurate it was when it started, but he's kept tabs. He literally has a little notebook next to his
Awesome.
checking it off when he's watching the live streams.
See, this is exactly the reason why I look forward to and am really enjoying doing these pocket talks. It's this kind of stuff that who knows that? Most people that are going to ever see this are not going to know that. It's these little juicy tidbits, these fun things that
Yeah,
we find out, right? So that's awesome.
yeah, absolutely. And you
Yeah.
know what? Mixing it up with uh, being in the chats. That's why I I like. So I started doing more live streams, and I wasn't involved in the chat as much, and I really miss that. That's why I like people say, "Hey, if you want to come on, you can come on." Whatever it is. Now I want to participate in the chat because that's just as much fun. That's what I like about the live streams.
Yeah.
Because sometimes whatever's going on screen is sometimes secondary to what everyone's got going in the chat. And
Oh,
when
it
you're
can.
on
Yeah.
this side of things, even if you're following along the chat, you're not in on the chat, right?
Not so
And
far as
so,
I can tell yet. No.
it, and so, yeah, there's always 1,000 different things going on that you're not going to catch, even if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And yeah, that goes back to my hanging out in the Grooves Day Night Live um, chats. That was, Grateful Panic would have his own thing going on, and there'd be 1,000 side conversations just going on in the chat, not even paying attention, to Grateful Panic. Um, but yeah, on that note, I do credit. I've always credited Brother John as being kind of the person that got me in touch with everybody, all the people that I'm close, actual friends with now.
Hmm.
They were just my pretend internet people that I talked to for the longest time. And now these are people that I talk to on a regular basis, and I know their families, and we've met up in person, and literally, but just about everybody that I'm close with now. Faction met Maddie in Grooves Day Night Live. Snuz Nuz, brother Jason Brown. That's where I got to know Jason Brown. That's where
Yeah.
I got to know Javon. That's where I got to know Shane Shane. Um, Patina Turner. Literally, so many people that I have been close with for years now. And there's going to be someone out there like, you didn't say my name. Uh,
I know it's so horrible. I hate to start naming names because I know I'm going to forget a bunch when
yeah.
I do it. So
Um, but yeah, that was it was weird at first, like talking to other dudes in a chat, and then be like, hey, you want my number? You know? But then you realize it's really not. And it's just a different, actual texting. And then, Jason Brown was the first one that like actually like, hey dude, instead of chatting, do you want to actually just have a phone call? You know? And just we had already chatted so much. It's like we already knew each other. So
yeah.
although we had never heard each other's voices before, it was simple to just start talking. Um And so, and that's what makes it so much easier now at like actual like meetups and going to Blade Show and whatnot. Um, I mean, like when we did the thing down at Worksharp,
Yeah.
we went out to dinner afterwards. I think that was eggs. Shout out eggs and ham, by the way.
That's right.
Um, Z Man, Zach, and me and you all went out to dinner.
Yeah.
I never sat down and talked with you
Mm-mm.
before, but we did sit down and we had natural conversation all night long, right?
Very
So
much so. Yeah.
that's what I found. If you're a people person, again, it can still be a little awkward for people when you meet up for the first time. It's not for me, because we've already had some conversation, so we already got some common
Yeah.
ground. And now meeting up with people is that's my favorite thing. And I try to meet up with as many people as possible.
Yeah.
Uh,
I love doing the meetups and like you mentioned, we first met at a meetup. I
yeah,
remember my first
Benton did.
meetup. What's that?
It was at Benchmade is where I think I first actually met
Yeah,
you.
that was that very first one, and that's my
Yeah.
first meetup that I'd ever gone to. I was still really young in the community. I mean, I had
Mhm.
literally just started to get into chats and start chatting, like that December, early January. January of that year was actually when I kind of regularly started to get in Zach and JB's live,
Mhm.
and then started to chat. And then I think it was March, if I remember right, where that kind of impromptu, at least from my perspective, it was impromptu. I heard about it at
Yeah.
1:30 the morning that it was happening. And I was 2.5 hours south, and I was like, oh man, there's a chance to go meet these
Oh,
people. Let's
yeah.
go. We hopped in the car and got up there. And quite honestly, I mean, I wasn't like scared or nervous, but new guy into a group of people,
Sure.
most of which knew each other. And there was a lot of sitting back and kind of hanging back a little bit. But it didn't take very long before JB's rolling and stuff out and get your butt over here, whoever you are, and what do you got? And I had
Yeah.
one knife in my pocket to show up, and it happened to be that. Thank God it was that one because that was the best thing I had at the time, you know. But started talking with him, and then Zach was there and talked with Zach a little bit, and you were there. I think Eggs was there. I wasn't Maddie
No,
in town for some strange reason that weekend too.
n no, Benchmade, so I came down with, Pocket Metal and Jamiette.
Okay.
We drove down the night before and stayed in a hotel, down there. Um, uh, it was, Justin, OCD for
Mm-hmm. Yep.
ECD that was, out of town, that was there.
Yeah.
Um,
And boy, he was bouncing off the walls that trip. He was all
yeah,
fired up, and that's how I heard about the meetup. Is I think he and Zach were doing like some camera setup check. They were doing like a midnight kind of unpublished live. I happened to stumble into it, and that's when they mentioned they were doing that meetup. But they were also playing with before it was a released product, Slick 'em All. And
right.
I'll always remember that meeting, that meetup, when
Yeah,
those
when
guys
he
were in the parking lot and they were showing off that stuff that he was cooking up in his
yep,
bathtub or his sink or whatever he was doing. And I think it was still weeks or even months before he released that. That's how
it
new
was.
it was. But and he was so fired up. Big dude, and it's like you couldn't hold that man still for 5 minutes, man. He was just
No,
bouncing.
and he's like that. I've met Justin in person. I think 3 or 4 other times since then. He's like that every time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was a lot of fun because Ian G was there, and Brandon
Hmm.
Thrasher and his wife Stacy were there. Um, God, I'm already forgetting. David Cam,
Hmm.
Orion Knives,
Hmm.
QSP. David was there. Um,
I think Slim Tissue was there, if I remember right. I
yeah,
think,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Marshall, I think, was there. Marshall Law, one, two,
Marshall,
three.
Penny,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Penny, is it
Penny,
Penny Ripple, right? Yeah,
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 Penny was there, and um, yeah, that was a lot of fun, and that was also like one of the we were just coming out of pandemic times, and it was one of the first times I remember actually uh stopping at the McMinimans the night before and everyone at midnight like celebrating by like tossing off their masks because Oregon and Washington had just lifted the mask mandates or whatever,
right.
and it's like, oh, we might be coming out of pandemic times. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun. That I think that was my first. I had met with people individually, but as a group, that was my first time.
Yeah,
Um, and then yeah, the one down in Medford there, that was a jaunt for me. I mean,
it was. Yeah, that's
down
a
in your
haul.
neck of
That's
the woods,
that's about an eight
that's
or nine
that's
hour drive for you.
yeah, it was about eight
Yeah,
and a half hours. But I wouldn't have missed out. I wanted to come down so bad. Um, and then yeah, that one was a lot of fun.
yeah. My
And
only
then
regret with that one is we were back and forth between Friday and Saturday on it, and there was quite a few people that thought that Friday would work, and we were supposed to have kind of some action going on at Workshop because it was Friday. They
right,
were willing to do it on a Saturday, but there wouldn't have been any activity in there.
right,
And if we would have if we could do it all over again, I'd do it on a Saturday, because we
yeah,
did kind of have a small group, but it was a blast. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And there's as you'll find out here pretty quick, there was some pretty interesting contacts made that day.
Yeah.
So at least in my world, and the
Right.
community is getting ready to hear more about those coming up.
That's
But
awesome.
speaking of meetups, I'm actually working. I don't know if you've heard it. I've talked about it on the live last week a little bit. Get some more details. One way or the other, end of June, Redmond Bend, Oregon area.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing the Overland Expo there,
Okay.
yeah, which going to be camping there and doing that. But a few of us have been talking about trying to do meetups where we have longer opportunities to be there if people
Sure.
choose. A camp out or whatever. That's just a neat event that people might like to attend. Maybe not. I'm trying to set
Hmm.
it up so we can have some kind of a place throughout the weekend that can be kind of a home base. I'm just trying to verify access for people that don't necessarily want to pay to come into the event. I'm trying to make
Sure.
sure they can get in and out all right to the camping area in the evenings and stuff. But yeah, that'll be the last weekend of June coming up. And like I say, even if I
Okay.
can't make it happen there, we're going to figure out some place there in the area so that we can set up at least some an evening or two to get together and meet up
Awesome.
there. So,
Awesome.
and just want to get the word out on that a little bit early. So, and I don't know
Yeah.
when this will actually release. It might only be a week or two before that, but we'll be
Sure.
talking about a lot in between now and then too. So,
Awesome.
but
Yeah. Keep me posted. I'll
yeah,
definitely, I got to look. I got a lot going on, but like I said, I try to make time for all that stuff.
yeah.
So,
So
but yeah, man, it's so weird to think that June is coming up so fast. I mean, heck, Blade Show already is in 2.5, 3 weeks,
yeah,
So
yep.
that's going to be fun. That'll be my third Blade Show in Atlanta. This one going on,
You gonna road
you know.
trip this one, Stevie? I mean, that's one of my
Uh,
earliest. I mean, obviously knew you a little bit, but one of my first early impressions where I really got to know you and your channel is when you guys road tripped that there. Let's see who's that. Let me see if I can remember. It
um,
was you and Snuzz and Maddie and Cue Ball. Is that right?
yep, yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, I didn't
So
screw it
yeah,
up. Right on.
I drove from here to Boise, stayed overnight in Boise, then down through Nevada and into to Lone Pine, California. Picked up Snuzz Nuzz off of the Pacific Crest Trail. He was hiking in the middle of hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, and then we carried on into the Phoenix area. Picked up Matisfaction, then drove. Matisfaction and Cue Ball live not too far from each other. All hopped in with Cue Ball, and then from there we drove into New Mexico. We met up with Mateo. Had breakfast with his parents. Got to meet Mateo's parents. And then it was on to Oklahoma, where we met up with the EDC community's world's most sexiest man, and has the world's smallest sticker. Uh, Jack's lungs. Here's a little bit better picture of
There we
Jack's
go.
lungs.
I love that.
Um, we stayed with Jake. Um, Jake put us up in one of his in the hotel that he works at. Was able to get us some discounts there. Then from there, we drove on to Tupelo, Mississippi. We stayed overnight there, and then we drove straight into Atlanta, where we ended up staying in a house. With the four of us stayed with Bees and Miss Bees, Brian and Caitlin, and Jared and Kara Neve. Um, yeah, it was the four of them and the four of us that showed up.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then did it all in reverse. Instead of stopping in Albuquerque to see Mateo, we made a little detour and went to Roswell, New Mexico, and stayed in. You know, we left Oklahoma that morning, and we're like, it's out of our way, but we've never stayed. Have any of you been to Roswell? And we're like, nope.
Yep. Let's
So
do it.
let's just we rolled into Roswell, stayed at the Roswell Inn, and it was one of the funnest times ever. And then hit like the large array on the way back to Arizona. And then yeah, dropped Snuzz Nuzz, brother Nuzz, right back on trail in Northern California, and then I made my way home. And so I spent, I think it was 15 days on the road with Nuzz. After again never knowing, I had talked to Nuz plenty of times in the phone on the phone. I had never seen Nuz though. Met him face to face for the first time in person. But 15 days on the road with anybody, you get to know that person.
Yes, you do. Whether
But
you
it was
like it or
12,
not.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it was 12 days on the road with Maddie and Cue Ball, but it was the final drive home. Snuzz and Cue Ball were passed out in the back seat. It was my turn to drive, and Maddie was sitting shotgun. And there was just like 4 hours of me and Maddie. I mean, me and Maddie knew each other fairly well prior to that, but we really got to know each other on that. That's why I think one of the reasons why, me and uh, Maddie are as close as we are now, through
Yeah.
that experience. But yeah, that was. I'm not saying it'll never happen again, but that was. I'm going to be road tripping to Blade West
Are
this
you?
year. It's not as far, but yeah, I'm going with the three Steves, me, Work Knife Balance, and Steve Clare, and maybe even Ethan of Ethan Ruins EDC is going to come with us. But we're going to drive to Salt Lake City in October for Blade West. But that's
Nice.
only that's a 7 hour drive,
Yeah.
8 hour drive.
Well, that's my plan. I was actually halfway there doing that last year, and
Yeah,
then life interrupted, and we cut that short and didn't make it to Salt Lake, and had to come back. But it's still my plan this year is to road trip it to go there. So depending on the route and weather and all that stuff as we get closer, maybe we'll have to try to get our paths to collide or something if our
for
travel
sure.
plans work out that well and kind of road trip it in. I'd love to try to pick up a couple other car or two of people to
Yeah,
try to roll off of the West Coast and Salt Lake together if
yeah,
anybody's
that,
up for.
that
But I love a road trip, man. I'd
right.
much prefer to drive and road trip somewhere if time allows than hop on a plane and fly there. So
Oh, any day. That's why I wish. I love going back to Atlanta. I really do. But I don't like flying that far. It's all the way. It's 2 days of travel.
hmm
On its own. It's a full. Flying from coast to coast. Basically,
yeah,
that's just 2 days worth of travel. And that's too much. And that's coming from someone that I fly a lot for my work. I take close to 30, 40 flights a year, but I never have to go that far. And
yeah,
so, and then just being able to have your own comfort
hmm
of you can bring whatever you want at that point,
yeah.
so, um,
I'm
but yeah,
particularly fond of control over the tunes. That's my
right,
favorite part,
right.
which is not that hard to
Eventually
do
I'd
this
like,
day and age, I guess. But
yeah, uh, eventually I'd like to make it to all three Blade shows. I wanted to go to Texas in February, and it just Texas or February ends up being horrible for me with work. But I think I might make it next year, and then yeah, try to do all three. Because yeah, blade shows are fun. I mean, I don't go there for the knives anymore at this point. I go there to meet up with people. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
um, yeah,
Well, is
really
it
looking forward
good?
to Blade here in a couple weeks. I actually just sold off a couple of knives. I have a new rule for the most part that I try to stick to. Nothing comes in until something goes. If I want something to come in, something's got to go.
There you go.
And I'm there to pick up two knives, so I had to sell off at minimum two. I really had to sell like four or five to fund the two that I'm getting, but um, uh, yeah. Again, this year I'm staying in a house with again Snuzz Nuzz, Forrest of Forrest Hanks,
Right
our
on.
brother Forrest,
Yep.
and then Sharif Manganas. The four of us are staying together.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. This will be again my third year staying with Snuzz, second year in a row staying with Forrest, um, and yeah, we're all coming in. It's more of a vacation this year.
Right.
I'm coming in the Wednesday. All four of us are coming in. Blade show is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're coming in Wednesday, and then not leaving until the following Tuesday.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah.
might end up working one of the days. I told I'm there 2 years in a row. First table I'm going to is Edgy Blade Works. Shout out to Scottsdale.
Right.
That's what I've been flicking this whole time. This is my custom P&W
Nice.
from Scottsdale's at Edgy Blade Works, but I'm going to be picking up something from him.
Very cool.
And then I have another custom that I'm picking up from Mr. Bless Knives.
Very cool. They do nice
Yeah.
stuff. Yes. Very cool.
Yeah, this is actually something I just got in yesterday. This is a custom prototype that Bless Knives did for Cheeto Bandito. If you guys know Cheeto,
Yeah.
this is Cheeto's Serrano design,
That's
and
beautiful.
he had Donnie Bless make this for him. AEBL, triple edged Warncliffe. So you got the sharpened edges here, and you have the Warncliffe straight edge. This thing is gnarly it's got all the jimping on it. Um, do I have it on me? Let's see, do I carry? Did I spill? Nope, I do got it on me. Yeah, shout out to Cheeto Bandito if Cheeto ends up watching this.
Now the
Yeah,
problem
Cheeto.
with giving Cheeto Bandito a shout out is about every week it's a different version of
Yeah,
it. It's
yeah.
Cheeto something. You know, it's
Right now it's Cheeto DeVito.
Chino DeVito.
He's been so many. He's been Cheeto Suave. He's been Don Cheeto, Cheetle Juice.
Yep. Oh,
Um,
Cheeto Juice. I remember that one. I
yeah,
know he comes up with some great ones, man. I
yeah,
look forward to seeing what he comes up with next.
yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's where my knife collecting is gone to at this point. I have some legit friends that are designers and makers, that I'd rather get stuff from them than anything else. Again,
Hmm.
nothing wrong with, production stuff, but, the Phoenix was my knife of the year last year. If Matisfaction is going to design a knife and it's going to come out, I'm going to buy it.
Right.
When Sharif Mangana's designs a knife, I'm gonna pick it up. When someone else, shout out to Broke Ass Knives, who's doing Dead Sober designs. He's got some stuff coming out. Work Knife Balance. Um, again, I'm so many. Tactical Terry's got a design in the works. These are all, naming off people that whose stickers. There's Tactical Terry.
Yeah.
Grumpy has a design out that one of his fixies I'd love to reach out to and get. But yeah, now I'm all about trying to support my friends in the community. So and whether it's Hanks, whether it's coins, leather work. Lancelot Leather is probably Joe is as close to a best friend as I have, and he just so happens to make cool stuff. Luckily Joe and luckily a lot of my friends actually make good stuff, because there's nothing worse than like my buddy a long time ago opened up a restaurant,
Right.
and honestly, he was not a good cook, and he was always wanting us to come try all his stuff. And we had to, kind of let him know, not
D-
fans,
yeah.
you know.
That's a
But
difficult spot to be in, isn't it?
yeah, but now, again, Joe. It's not just because Joe's my friend, but I've really I got a taste for leather now. I'm hell bent
Yeah.
for leather. But yeah, I enjoy. I get a kick out of seeing people that I know succeed with stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
that's what makes me happy. I am one of those people that are happy for other people's successes and want to see them do as good
yeah,
as possible. You know, um, so if that means, I'm sure I'm not going to be able to, with so much stuff coming out these days, I can't catch them all. But you're always going to see me trying to prop people up like that, I guess,
yeah,
and trying to spotlight. I don't like taking the spotlight. I really don't. I want to see other people, so that's why I'm always trying to give as many shout outs to, the smaller makers. Like, I do stuff like this on purpose, so when I mean, I'm not trying to just, put product placement on your,
right.
on your live stream, but, when I'm on a live stream, I want people to see, be familiar with, the people who, the Last Ranger,
Hmm.
probably,
Gary. Yeah,
one of my Gary he's who designed my logo for me. Gary is one of my favorite people in the community, and I want people to see, keep Gary,
yeah,
Grumpy Grunt again, so that's why I purposely do that type of stuff. So people see that and will want to check them
yeah.
out.
Well, and don't you think that's just kind of the beautiful thing about this community that
Mhm.
we've gravitated to is that just some of the kindest, nicest people.
Oh,
As much as probably most of these dudes that are running around there could be angry, gnarly, guys, whatever. For whatever reasons, you put a bunch of guys in the same room, and it's just amazing how they come together. And and I appreciate you not wanting to teach your own horn, but the creative makers, there you go. Yeah, right.
yes, KFS, man. That's what it's
Yeah.
all about.
I mean, that is the way, right? I mean,
It really is.
it gets no better. And I think that,
Yeah,
I think somebody's headstone, when he's said and done, that needs to be right at the very top because, if there's
I
one
agree.
thing that you could leave behind and something that the community's gravitated to, hashtag DSKFS,
Hmm.
that really sums it all up. And,
Yeah, it's I don't um I can't disagree with you at all on that, man.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it is all about. But yeah, this community is filled with so many awesome, talented folks, and that's um, again, don't expect everyone. There's so many folks. I try to spread it around as much as possible, but I am gravitated towards my close friends.
sure.
But that's the cool thing also right now in the community we've seen over the last couple of years as people from the community making products for the community. You know,
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely. I happen to have one right here, actually.
yeah, look at
You
that.
know, and I know
I
you don't like to toot your own horn, my man, but yeah, you are not only a content creator but a maker as well. And it's some pretty
yeah,
cool stuff. And I bring this up not only because you're on here. I mean, obviously, I was going to mention it at some point if you didn't. Um, but it kind of plays into the way our conversations developed here. There are people in the knife, and quite honestly, I felt this way the first couple of times. A few people said, "Why don't you start a channel?" And I was like, I don't have the chops to start a knife channel." And it's like, I'm still too young with my knife knowledge, to even begin to hold my own with probably 80 or 90% of the people in any room at any given time. And that's just the way I honestly feel. But it's the other things that we bring along with those interests, right? And you mentioned several things. I think we gravitate at first, in particular, we gravitate to the people where we find comfort or we find similarities or similar interests, right?
mhm,
No secret, that Zach and JB, they were my first experiences as far as getting into the community, and
right.
my foundation, my principle are very much based on, I mean, I became a Benchmade guy because I was looking for Benchmade when I found Zach,
Right.
through a meetup and through getting to know JB. And at that first meetup we were talking about, he put a Finch knife in my hand for the first time. I had been noticing them, but until I had it in my hand, I didn't fall in love with them. The tuning forks didn't ring in the loins,
Right.
if we're going to go back to a little Kevin Costner line there, right? But that's the cool thing about this. And you brought something, and I don't know how this happened, but you very much brought a wonderful product to the community, regardless of what you brought knife content wise, right? And I'm a consumer and a user of this before I ever met you. But I
That you
discovered this
were. That's
as part of the community. And quite honestly, I didn't know that you were coming to the meetup, that particular meetup down here. And
uh,
I had literally put my order in for the first time the
yeah,
week
I
before
remember
that.
that.
And I
Yeah.
think I think it actually got delivered while we were at the meetup that
Right.
day.
Right. Um. Yeah. That all came about. Well, just celebrated. Shameless plug here.
2 years.
Celebrating
Yeah.
the 2-year anniversary of EDC Roundtable. Um. Just dug up the original conversation that me and Joe Lancelot Leather had about starting something like that. And I was originally just going to help, like, talk about it. I had a YouTube channel out of all the people that were going to be joining at the time. I just happened to have a YouTube channel, so I was like, "Hey, I'll talk about you guys and show off the stuff." And because I'm not a maker, I don't make anything. And it wasn't until I just happened to be talking to Joe about, like, not liking the beard products that I was using.
Hmm.
Like, this is okay, that's okay, but I'm like, God, I should just make my own. And Joe's like, yeah, you should. And I'm like, I don't know how to make beard oil. And he's like, you can figure it out though. Like, yeah, but what I'm gonna make beard oil? And he's like, yeah, you should make beard oil. "Oh, okay. Well, let me look into that. Then I realized it ain't rocket science. But yeah, started messing around. I knew I wanted to. Again, I knew what I liked. I knew what I didn't like. I like. And I didn't want to come out with a clone of something. I wanted to make my own thing. So just started ordering different stuff. And I knew I also, like, if I'm going to make something, I want it to be all, as much as possible, made in the United States. So, like, all the products that I use, the only thing that I have to, it's all North American made. You can't get good hemp seed oil in the United States. So that's got to come from our Canadian neighbors. But wanted to use, like, high quality stuff because I have a beard that's high maintenance, so I have to have a little bit. I can't just get any off the shelf stuff. Um, Put together what I thought was a decent formula. Was my own guinea pig for a while because I didn't want to send this stuff out and have people's breaking out in rashes and
Right.
whatnot. But I was actually like, I think I actually made something semi decent here, and sent out probably a dozen or so samples. Um, and, like most of my friends that make stuff, that send me stuff, say, hey guys, I want you to be brutally honest with me. Like, don't tell me you like this if it sucks. And then I go selling it and people are like, dude, this sucks. Why are
Yeah.
you? So be honest.
Yeah.
Please be
Yeah.
honest with me. And surprisingly, everybody had really good feedback. I made a couple little tweaks. Um, but I had gotten the best feedback I had gotten. If anybody out there follows Chris Wolf, the Three Wolves on Instagram, um, he shortened his, but he was like my beard crush in the community. And then Jason Brown also. Those were my two beard crushes. They gave me the most positive feedback. And actually, one of the um, scents I ended up really going with, peppermint, was inspired by Joe and Jason.
That's one of my favorites, by
Uh,
the way. So the
yeah,
peppermint. I
yeah.
love the peppermint. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and then I was like, well, I also use balm. Maybe I should make balm too. So, yeah, it went. It's still more of a hobby than anything.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's fun. And here I am, 2+ years later, selling. Not a week goes by where I'm not sending out an order to someone. And I got people that I don't even know now that aren't from the community that have
that have
found my
discovered
stuff,
it. Yeah,
that have discovered it. Um,
that's
you
awesome.
know, it's yeah, it's so it's a lot of fun. Because to
Well,
me, again, we're talking about EDC being so many different things. Beard products are EDC for me. I got to maintain this
right.
glorious mane. So that's stuff that I literally have on me at all times. So yeah, it's that's been fun, and appreciate everyone that's given the support. Like I said, we're going 2 years strong at this point, man.
That's awesome.
Established 2022.
That's awesome. Yep.
Yeah,
Well, I can certainly, and I can say thank you too, because I don't, and I mean I've had a full beard. I wore a full beard for a long time. I've been wearing the goatee for many years now, but I've just never been able to grow it out without it going nuts.
right.
And it's so fine after it gets so long. It's not coarse enough that it really has any shape or body to it. So, but I've always fought as much as I scrub, I clean, I condition, dry skin around my goatee. And I use this pretty much every morning. And it doesn't take much, obviously. But boy,
Right.
I'm telling you what, it sure helps. And quite honestly, I mix a little beard oil in just for a little flavor.
Sure.
What do I want to smell and taste for a little while that day?
Right.
So, so
Yeah, I mean, so it's really for, the balm helps condition the beard, but like the oils,
hmm
it's really for your skin more than
hmm
anything. It helps promote healthy growth.
yeah,
But yeah, man, the feedback on that type of stuff, like from Z-Man and whatnot, of the high quality ingredients that I'm using, you know, it does. It helps with the dryness. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
very very
I
happy.
yeah, I just mix a little together in the palm of my hand, a little of both. Kind of
Yep.
mix them up together and put them both in at the same time, and just give her
Yeah.
a good rub and scrub in there, and style her up
Uh,
a little bit, which doesn't take much in my case, and hit the road to work.
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Troy, shout out to Tree Stab and Troy. Um, Started using it on his micarta.
Oh, very
He,
cool.
he puts a
To
couple
to,
of
to
dabs. I
condition
mean,
it.
there's really no reason why you can't. But instead of using like mineral oils and whatnot, Troy has the micarta variant of the Mangana Steel Kaimano.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, he put a couple of dabs on his micarta, and I never even thought of that.
Oh, dude, I
So
so got. I was just thinking about on these right here. I was trying to find them. I carry this Finch Devil's Finger a lot, and I love the micarta on it. And I like to get the natural oil patina on it, but I was
yeah,
just thinking about this the other day that would be cool to oil that up a little bit. I'm
yeah,
gonna try that. I don't know if it'll be
yeah,
tonight when we're done, but I'm gonna try that on there, dude. I have to. That's a great idea. So,
yeah.
Troy, I'm stealing your idea, dude.
Yeah. Troy's another one. That I've become excellent friends with
Nice.
throughout time. But yeah, and it's cool to see the people that again use that stuff on the regular. It always every time I see someone posting it, it's still like again. I don't like to. I think a lot of us are like that. Don't like to accept, the thanks and whatnot. It's
hmm
like ugh, get a little uncomfortable with it sometimes. But people, all the awesome feedback that you get is it's never lost on me.
Yeah.
Um, but it's yeah, it's fun. But again, it's just so many people bringing so much other stuff to the community. It'd be hard to not mention, guys like P&W Fun Stuff.
Yes.
When we're talking about people showing off their talents to the community. Did you happen to see his video where he knocked out that bushcrafting table?
I did not see
You
the
know,
bushcrafting one, no.
yeah, yeah. He was just like, yeah, I'm gonna bushcraft just a little makeshift table. It had his cold steel, uh, baton through a bunch of stuff, and just showed how to make a quick and simple, table out of bushcraft. Quick bushcrafting table.
I'm gonna have to go find that
I get,
video now. Yeah.
I get such a kick out of P&W Fun Stuff.
He's hilarious. He makes me laugh so hard sometimes when I see the stuff. Oh,
Yeah, talented, funny dude.
yes.
Who is honestly, not to get all cornball, but he's DFKSF personified.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
dude is constantly, and again, there's so many just like P&W Fun Stuff that we
There
could,
really are.
say. But yeah, always trying to do stuff for the community. It's awesome.
Very much so. And I'm going to give him a shout out as well. It was just a couple of weeks ago, and I got done with a live, and I checked messages in the email box, um, and he and I don't remember if he sent an Instagram or the email, one or the other. But when I checked the message, he's like, "Dude, send me your email or send me your mailing address. I want to send you some stuff." I mean, I've seen him send stuff into channels for a long time, but to have him just reach out of nowhere, and I think we know who each other are, but we've never really
Right.
interacted that much per se, aside from just saying hi to each other in chats. And he sent in a beautiful package. I just recently opened it on the live, 2 weeks ago, I think, and it is, and it's just that kind of kindness.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that I've been most surprised about with the channel. And I've been reminded several times, why are you that surprised? You know the people in this community. And I think a lot of that is when you first start to do this type of stuff, I don't think that most people expect that people are going to reach out to them like that.
It's,
And I'm totally caught off guard almost every day by something
I
still. Yeah.
every single time when it happens, uh yeah, it's the amount of, I mean, it can go both ways.
Mhm.
I'm flooded with all sorts of freaking pickle stuff now.
Right, right.
uh
Well, that's all right. We've
but
established here a few
um
weeks ago that you and I have a few more things in common. One is neither one of us are pickle fans. I'm not.
uh
I maybe do a little sweet pickle relish on a hot dog once in a while, but
sure, sure.
that's about as close to a pickle as I get by choice. But we both happen to love oatmeal raisin cookies. We
Oatmeal
found
raisin
out not
cookies.
to, right, right, and
God, it's never
there you
ending.
go. There's big deal. Right on. So.
um yeah, love a good oatmeal raisin cookie. But yeah, the amount of, again, it doesn't stop. It doesn't. The amount of sidebar, the ultimate infiltration of this was I opened up a Christmas present from my sister,
Oh no.
and it was a pickle ornament, and I was like, not you too. Um, and so she had ordered me a custom knife roll from Lancelot Leather, and Joe was like, "Hey, I'm also sending you this pickle ornament. He loves pickles." And my sister was like, "He doesn't like pickles." And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, he definitely likes pickles." And she was like, "Oh, okay." So when I open up this Christmas I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, you too? Because she doesn't pay, my family doesn't pay much attention to what I do on this side of things. And she was like, what? Your friend Joe and your friend Maddie said you love pickles. And I was like, ah! ah, they got me. They got me.
Did she feel it all set up by being the one that they got to
Oh,
deliver
yeah.
it?
Yeah, absolutely, afterwards, she was like I even
Oh.
said he doesn't like pickles. She was like, thought it was weird." She's like, "I know you don't like pickles." Uh, look, she also thought it was really funny, and it is.
Yeah.
But, again, just the fact that people, whether it's, giving me crap and sending me, this came from Demonock, you know, my emotional support pickle.
Right?
And I'm excellent. I'm
Yeah.
pretty good friends with Demonock. I do get a kick out of it. But whether it's that, I get Christmas cards from people, randomly. I got a birthday present from Marcos Gamma. Gotten a couple birthday presents from him. When you get something in the mail, Joe Isabella. If you guys know Joe, he makes some awesome stuff. Sent me a couple of things before. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But it's it is humbling, and it's again something that was unintended. I did not start this to get stuff. I try to give out more stuff than really anything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the generosity of the community. But I'm the same way. I like sending little things here and there to the people that I support. So
Yeah.
uh, it's not something that I expected. It's not something that I ever expect, and I'm always appreciative of it. Like genuinely, it's awesome. Um,
Well, it's very not only is it flattering, but it's very humbling,
it
you
is.
know.
It is.
And it was just I don't think it was but a week or two into kind of getting the channel started. And I had a very kind person reach out to me, and not only they say they wanted to send some stuff in to give away on the channel, donations for
Hmm.
giveaways and stuff like that. But Mr. Calhoun was like, and I think I had just done
Right.
my very first Spyderco
Hmm.
video, and he's like, and I'm sending two in particular that I want you to add to your personal collection. The Finch that he sent, he knew I was lacking it, and he wanted to fill that gap in that hole. But this one, because he knew I was new to Spyderco, he's like, dude, with your bear paws, I want you to have that. I want you to put it in there. This will always forever be the very first knife when I started the channel that somebody, actually wanted me to add to my collection, whether I liked it or
Right.
not, but they knew, and Rory's pretty sharp dude, and anybody that's been around a long time knows he's always a very generous person, and
Right.
also knows DSKFS about as good as most, So, but no, it's very flattering
I,
and humbling at the same time that the people are willing to do that, and the giveaways and stuff like that. There's so much fun to be able to give back to the community and back to those people that are supporting us. So
yeah. I mean, look, I have two dedicated rows in my knife case now of sentimental knives that I have
nice.
received from people in the, something like this one was shout out to the Bearded Doom. This is a artisan Ahab that he lasered and put a one of his Doom dads on it. But
Mm-hmm.
I got a random text message from Kevin one time that was like, "Hey, do you have coordinates to like your favorite place?" Like, actually, I do. My private shooting range, I follow. I get there by coordinates, so I happen to have that. And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Just send it to me." And then one day, a month or so later, this knife randomly shows up, and it's got a
Look at
couple
that.
of coordinates on it, and yeah, so like that was insane to me that I got something like that. Um, we mentioned them a little bit earlier. The original group of friends that I have in the community. My douche brothers. This was a gift from Brandon Thrasher, and that actually, if it'll focus, actually says
There you go. Stevie Wonder
Stevie Wonder
Woman
Woman
douche number
douche
2.
number 2. Uh, Lefty EDC has douche number 1. I got Brandon douche number 3. Says Brandon Thrasher. And then Chris Grady's Gear has douche number 4. And we started calling ourselves the Four Douches a long time ago. But knives like this, I don't necessarily carry these knives, but you know, uh, Jack's Lungs sent me, a long, long time ago before we ever knew we'd be friends. This the Kaiser Quatch, you know, um, and that stuff that just absolutely blew my mind. But those are forever knives that I'm never going to get rid of. And it's always I love having those type of memories, but with those type of knives,
Yeah.
so
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, and that's the cool thing about these conversations is community is full of endless stories like this. And
I,
and most everybody I've talked to says, people just don't understand. They don't understand why I'm into this, or why these knives and these live streams and stuff are so important. And I think almost everybody that I've talked to, whether it's been doing an interview like this or just in chats or meetups or whatever, we all say almost the same thing. We came for the knife and we stayed for the
stayed for the
community,
friendship.
the
Yeah,
friendship, the camaraderie, the
yeah,
community, the kindness, and
yeah.
you mentioned Jason Brown earlier. I was just kind of barely starting to get to know more of who he was, and had just barely started to chat with him a little bit back and forth in the chats. Unfortunately, when he left us, but the community and the impact that he left on the community has just been amazing. And I know you guys were super super close. But
Uh,
what the community's done, with his family and to help support his family and everything through there. So, yep,
yeah. Be up.
yep.
That's really
Hashtag be
become
up.
a moniker, just like DSKFS. Be up has become a thing as well. And yeah, Jason, in my opinion, is one of the most important people I've met in a long, long time. And you're talking about a guy that didn't have any social media whatsoever. Only knew people through the chats, or if you were lucky enough to, get his number and start talking with him. But seeing how impactful he was and the type of person that he was speaks to just all sorts of his character, and to see how the community has not forgotten and still supports the Brown family.
Yep,
And uh, it's awesome.
it is.
um,
It is.
and that's a dude that I knew for a short amount of time. Got to know him very well early on. Was literally just like so many other people say, one of the first people that actually reached out and was like, "Hey," in the chat,
Absolutely.
and started a side conversation with. Jason was just that guy.
Yeah.
Um, there was a lot of people that came out and said, me myself included, that after his passing, so many people thought they were, had a special bond with Jason. And it's not that they didn't, but Jason had that bond with so many people.
He did.
Jason
Well,
was what was that guy. And
he.
yeah, Jason's my brother always and forever.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
seeing Grumpy and Papa Rhino thought of Choo Choo the gnome in his likeness. And literally, Choo Choo goes everywhere with me. This
Yeah.
is my little EDC bag that I carry around of stuff that's in and out. I bring in and out of my truck every day, and wherever I go, Choo Choo's literally with me.
Nice.
And
That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, never
Yeah.
never
No.
forget that.
Well, and he was just that kind of person. I always remember he would go out of his way to be the first person in pretty much any chat that I was ever in. And he
Hmm.
always was there. He was always queued up. He was always ready to go before anybody, usually
Yep.
making the first comment. And I remember, the first couple times you come into a live stream as a new person participating, just saying hi, and of course, when you're
Mhm.
brand new, nobody knows you. And
Right.
there are lots of nice people, but I'll never forget Jason Brown. The instant he would know if you'd said hi, he was almost always the first person, sometimes the only person that would say hi.
Sometimes the only
And
person. Yeah.
sometimes the only person that would say hi to the new guy, right?
Yep.
But he always never missed, never missed, never missed. And like I said, even when you weren't communicating with other people, he would go out of his way to try to start that conversation with new people.
Yeah. Yep.
And I recognized it when he was doing it. I was like, who is this guy? And he doesn't know me from Adam, but he always says hi. And that just speaks so
Yeah.
much to his character. And a very tragic loss way too soon, but I think wonderful testament to the community. His presence here, and then quite honestly, in his passing.
Yeah.
It speaks a lot to the community and what a wonderful place it is, I believe. So,
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. And whew, yeah,
right? Yeah,
he's he's it makes me happy. It makes me
yeah,
really happy to see all the awesomeness that with people rallying around Jason.
yeah, yeah.
So,
So, as a
um,
matter of fact, I think what I'd like to do, we've tried to make a habit on these pocket talks so far of throwing up a hashtag or something in there. We'll do a little love, here in a few weeks after we publish this and put it out there. But I think it's only fitting that anybody that's watching this, we need to see a hashtag be up in the comments in here. If for nothing else, just a hashtag be up, please. And let's remember Jason Brown, and let's throw that in the comments when you get a chance. There you go, right there. Beautiful,
yup,
beautiful. So
boom.
right on.
Yeah.
So
Um. Yeah. He was he would tell everybody, "Stop it, stop, enough with the be up," which is the funny thing about it. But yeah, it's awesome to see,
yeah, yeah,
and yeah, it's something that I don't think will ever go away. So
mm-hmm.
that's even more special about it.
Very much so.
Um, but yeah, man, so many people that what's n- I mean, it's already been so long that there are people that have come into the community that never had any interaction with. He was gone,
Mm-hmm.
before they came into the community and know everything about Jason. That
Yeah,
speaks volumes.
yeah,
That speaks volumes.
yeah, yeah.
So it's
Yep.
awesome.
And like I
Awesome
said,
to
I was really only in it for just a few short months. And like I said, he left an impression on me. And certainly, I think a lot of the people to come in after. I mean, yeah, still very much talk. We're talking about him right now, right?
yeah.
So,
Right.
and
Right.
yeah, so that's boy, if I can leave an impact like that behind, thank you, sign me up.
Whew.
Ooh, right? That's a
Yeah. I mean,
hell of a
yeah.
big set of shoes to try to step into.
Right.
But anybody that can leave that behind, you've done something right. So,
And that's what's so awesome, look, talking with Sarah, Jason's wife, um obviously they'd rather still have, he left behind a young daughter, but for his daughter to be able to see the type of person her father
mhm.
was, her dad
Yeah,
was, she knew how awesome he was, to her,
yeah,
but to see how impactful he's been on other people's lives, that, oh man, that'll, hit you in the feels right there. Nora knows how awesome her dad is,
hmm,
so
yep,
and never gonna forget it. So yeah, that's awesome.
yep,
Love it. So yeah.
yep. Very cool.
But again, just the generosity of everyone. Jason is just one of many people that have been like that. And yeah, it's nice. It's a fun. It really is a fun community to be a part of. And again, I think I mentioned it earlier. The community really is an actual community where there's different communities within the community. That's what it is, right?
Hmm.
You know, but
Very much so.
I look at it. I kind of look at it like the high school lunchroom. You know, you walk in and you got people over at this table. You got people at this
Right.
table. This table. You probably know where you're going to sit down.
Hmm.
At your table. But you can still talk to everybody. And yeah, that's what I love about it. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I've actually been going through that in a couple of different facets just since I started the channel. And one of the things, and this was very intentional coming into it, was I wanted to broaden my horizon as far as my knife interest went, knowing that
mhm,
I was going to do this, and this has given me the opportunity to do that. But the same with the people, and quite honestly, a bit of a surprise as I was kind of just doing a little research, knowing I wanted to get face forward, and I wanted to come out and start doing lives pretty quick as soon as I started the channel. That was actually a goal. I started to before the channel ever. Where am I going to try to land? Because
sure,
a few years ago, there was lots of gaps for somebody to schedule a live, and
right.
stuff like that. But it's the community has grown to such an extent.
When
I can speak to it as a new channel. It was kind of hard to try to find a place to come in and land where
I
you weren't landing in the middle of large sucking sounds from bigger channels, which have worked their
yeah,
butts off and have grown. And quite honestly, they need to do their thing, right? But
right.
just trying to find an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours to land, it's a tough
So
deal. And along the way, I've discovered a couple new channels just looking at knifetubeschedule.com is where I
yeah,
was looking.
sh-
And now, Rochambeau was a new channel to me I discovered during that.
yeah,
Sharp Guy ATX. I knew who he was, but he had just started a channel not too many weeks before I did. And on
hmm
Tuesday nights, as a matter of fact, I think
yep.
he's probably doing it right
I
now while
think
we're
he's on
recording
live
this.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and and
Yeah.
a few of those guys, and they're starting to
When
not only become content that I've learned about and I'm watching now, but in a few cases, they're starting to become friends now too.
sure.
And that's a wonderful thing. So
Yeah. When I first, so I guess again, I have not been around really that long, but in the short time that I have been around, when I first started, so shout out to Scott N, by the way, who runs Night
absolutely,
Tube Schedule.
yep.
Scotty's awesome. Can't wait to see him again at Blade Show coming up here. But Scott N, My Knife Journey on Instagram,
Instagram, yep. And wonderful
is
photography, by the way,
oh
for
oh
anybody that
yeah
doesn't know. I'm a photographer, and
yeah.
he's got some skills, man. I love seeing what he puts out. So
That I don't know if you can see it, but that is actually a photo that Scott N took of one of my very first beard oil orders.
oh
He
really?
ordered beard
Nice.
oil and beard balm, and
Hmm.
took an awesome picture and put it on a canvas and sent to me. That's again kind of bringing everything full circle. But
Yeah, yeah, that's
when
awesome.
I first started wanting to go live, looking at it was like where I could have my pick of the litter. There wasn't a lot going on. And now, because I have Knife Tube schedule populated on my Google Calendar, um, it's damn near impossible now. Yeah, look, variety is the spice of life. You can tune in every day at just about any hour and catch good
Hmm.
knife content now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but that's also one of the things that you know, I can talk knives by all means, but that's one of the things that honestly on the live streams that I do predominantly, like with late night with said faction, or when I'm on with Maddie, or I'm doing my own live, um, we end up talking about knives even less because honestly, I'm watching knife content, the live streams. Sometimes it's the last thing I want to talk about, So,
Yeah.
uh, and that's one of the things that I think that I was told early on by us, a couple idiots, um, that you're going to confuse people with doing, doing, prank phone calls and all that, some of the silly stuff that we've done during the live streams. Or I was even told, doing the rambling from the woods was something that they're like you should just start a separate channel for that. And I was like, no, I said in my very first video, I think one of the things I did say is I have no clue what this channel is going to be. Knives aren't the only thing that I'm interested in, so you might see a little bit of everything, and that's what I have finally settled into. If you go back and look at my last probably 10 videos, I mean, outside of the shorts that I'm doing, the reels and whatnot, most of my videos are the rambling from the woods, you know,
Yeah.
where I'm, going out on a hike and whatnot,
Well,
which is,
let's take a look at that. How about that? Look at that. We just
uh,
happen to have your stuff up there, dude.
oh, look
So
at
yeah, so
that.
there's some of Stevie's latest content right there. And if you haven't caught it by now, there's his info. That said Stevie. That said Stevie Channel, YouTube, and then we got a few more links up here. If I cannot screw this up too bad, ooh, they're not open. There we go. So take a screenshot, people. There you go. There's all of his socials. So, but yeah,
Um,
what do you got on here? So this one's spicy fixed blade, the Serrano,
yeah,
right on.
that's the Serrano prototype I just got in.
Yep, I
Um,
was just checking that out a little bit earlier, but
And
yeah.
then, yeah, my last rambling from the woods. So, one of the awesome things about living in the great Pacific Northwest and crispy here in Washington State is there's just immediately around me, just 15 minutes down the road, either way. I got Work Knife Balance. I got Ethan Ruins EDC, Steve Clare, um, Stiff Detent, and his wife, quite frankly, and getting them going out on the trails with me as of late. So a couple weeks ago, me and Work Knife Balance went out on a hike together, and then just this last weekend, or this last week, Ethan joined us as well. Ethan Ruins EDC. Um, yeah, being able to hang out with those guys on a regular basis, and now we even started the P&W Breakfast Club.
Hmm.
So now literally every weekend, I'm having breakfast with those same folks. And Steve Clare is another one who I've gone to really know over the last year, and he's literally 15 minutes down the road. Um, and yeah, it's going to be fun road tripping again with Steve and his masturbatorium. Uh, uh, and Work Knife Balance. But then, yeah, Work Knife Balance got to know him while he was living in Arizona, and then he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm moving back to Washington." And then I had one of the pass around knives needed to go to him next, and when he sent me his address, I'm like, "You're literally." I mean, the joke's always everything around me is just 15 minutes down the road. He's literally, if you plug in his address to Google on Google, from doorstep to doorstep, he's 15 minutes away from me. Um, so yeah, being able to meet up with those folks on a regular basis is it's so much fun. But yeah, doing the ramblings, I love. I'm a very prideful Pacific Northwesterner. Um, Growing up here, I'm not from here originally, but I've lived here since I was 6 years old, and just this specific spot, my backyard being the North Cascades, in the Puget Sound here, I love. That's why also when I had the chance to help design with, I didn't realize when I was uh, Scott Stills, Edgy Blade Works, was bouncing ideas off of me. I didn't realize I was designing my own knife. I thought I was just helping him out with one of his designs, and then he's like, "Hey, what do you want to call your knife?" I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "This is your design, man." So that's why this is called the P&W.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
but yeah, love it out here, and I love being able to show off. Um, I thought it was something that you weren't seeing people in our community doing. Because I'm not going out trying to bushcraft and stuff. I'm just going out and showing off nature, and it's been a lot of fun to do.
Yeah.
Getting out there. There's so many places just right right around the corner from me to go out and showcase. And it's fun getting out there. Literally, I think the last one was episode 40. I didn't intend on making it a series, but I just kept going and going and going. There was probably Mattisfaction that was like, you should call it Ramblin' from the Woods or something. Maddie's also who helped. Uh, I never finished my story about becoming from Stevie Wonder Woman to
Oh
Said
yeah,
Stevie.
yeah,
But Maddie helped me come up with that as well. But yeah, the ramblings are fun, and it's more refreshing to me to do that, to be out there. I'll throw in a pocket check while I'm out there, or I'll talk about whatever's fresh on the mind. But yeah, I try not to just do. Look, nothing wrong with it, but I'm not good at doing reviews, so to speak. There's too many awesome people out there that do it 10 times better than I can or even want to, really.
yeah,
And so I always say, if you want a review, go watch. You mentioned Rochambeau.
yeah.
Um, in my opinion, look, I got a lot of my favorites out there. But Rochambeau is one I'm extremely impressed with what Rochambeau does. And he's a nice guy. Uh,
Yes, just
but
very
you know,
much so.
I
Yeah,
say if you want like a good in-depth review, go watch someone like Rochambeau. You're not going to get that from me.
yeah.
You're going to get fart jokes and Sasquatch and you know making myself sound like an idiot most of the time is what I do.
Well, but I mean,
And
I think that's important though, because don't you think the more you just yourself, that it's just more natural. I mean, I think when
you know,
certain things are too forced, I think it makes it harder for
right.
people to want to connect with it. So
So there's one thing that I'm really, really, really good at doing, and that's being myself.
yeah, right.
And to a fault, maybe sometimes you'll know the minute I'm bullshitting you. You'll know the minute I'm being phony because I act completely different because I can't do it. It makes my That's why I always say, folks, don't worry about me telling you an opinion. My opinion can't be bought.
Yeah,
You know, there's been times where I've gotten stuff in that I just couldn't say nice things about. So I go, look, guys, I can't talk about this knife really without trying to, talk bad about it. Knowing that there's people out there and I'm not like throwing shade or anything, but there's some people that will just because they're getting free stuff say it's awesome, right?
yeah,
I can't do that. So that's why I always say you can take it to the bank. If I say it's good, I like it because I can't bullshit you.
yeah, yeah,
I can only be myself, and that's why I can't script things, or I tried that like writing out little scripts here and there just to follow along. I can't do it. That's why I don't know what I'm going to say in advance of anything. Whenever it's go time, like tonight, I had no clue. Um, you know,
Well, that
I did
makes me feel
JD.
better because I was winging this whole thing too.
Yeah, that's in my opinion, you
uh,
get the most natural conversation.
mhm.
Because I'm not when I meet up with a friend in real life. I'm not thinking about what are we going to talk about in advance. We just sit down and start talking,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that's how I treat this type of stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, that's all I can do. So again, for better for worse, uh, that's why um, I how my channel's morphed. And I said,
yeah,
a while ago, I'm no. This is a complete hobby for me. It's way more of a social aspect now. That's why, although I got some affiliate links and I work with a couple of companies here and there that I'm on extremely good terms with, um, I don't. I'll push other people's stuff before I push my stuff, but I'm not interested in the channel will grow naturally. Of course, I like when my stuff performs well, but
sure. Everybody does, right?
if my video gets 10 likes or 1,000 likes, I'm just as happy if there's 20 people attending a live stream or if there's 400 people attending a live stream. I'm not, I'm early on, I think a lot of people go through that. And early on, yeah, I was chasing it and I was doing the things that you got to do. And I was cranking out, 2, 3 videos a day and spending. Then you start realizing I don't have the time to do all this either.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time and effort. That's why, shout out to the people that are content beasts, like G Ball and Lefty and Javon. And, those guys are cranking out. I know what
Constantly.
it takes. I know what it takes to do that, the dedication. I can't do that. But I just realized after a while that it started feeling forced. I'm just signing up for this pass around knife so I can make content. Now, there's sometimes where I go 2, 3 weeks without posting something. I'll do a live stream here and there, but yeah, doing content just for the sake of doing content is something I stopped doing a while ago.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm very happy with where the channel is at this point, and I'm very content, to just keep doing what I'm doing now. I have no aspirations of. I've gotten into editing a little bit more as of late because I'm not doing it as much.
Hmm.
Like I put that in my newest video that I released today. I put a bloopers reel, at the very end of it. I did a little intro. That was fun. But yeah, I'm very happy with where It's taken me a while to get here, but I'm very content with the, I guess, core group of people that I interact with on most of my videos and on social media. And if it grows again, cool. If it stays stagnant, or it goes backwards, that's fine. You're going to see the same content out of me. What, like I said, whether I have 10 subs or 100 subs, or I honestly don't even know where I'm at now. I stopped. I mean, I have a general idea, but I don't know what my number is. I don't
You want to take a
pay.
guess? I'm looking at it.
Last time I think I was at like, I remember I had just hit 32.99. I remember I was like, "Oh, I'm almost at 3,300." So
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
last time I looked.
It's been a minute then because you're at 3370 something is
Oh,
what you
okay.
got. And
Okay.
look at you go with 1.2 thousand videos, dude.
I have
You
1.2 thousand videos.
that's
Are
what
you
it says.
serious?
1.2K videos is what it's saying right here. Here, yeah, hang on a second. Let's throw it back
Wow.
over here real quick.
That
Uh,
seems insane.
well, I'm just telling you what it says, bud.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
see
I'm
here,
sure.
right there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, look at you go. Stevie the rock star. No, I love
Right.
that, but I mean that says a lot, though. You know what you're saying, and quite honestly, I find a fair amount of what you're just saying refreshing. You know, obviously being really new to this, some of my concerns and some of my original thoughts and ideas coming into the channel, how I wanted to launch it, some of the first content that I wanted to put together and put out there. Quite honestly, none of that happened.
Right.
You know, because it's kind of funny. Life starts to take over and you get the ball rolling. And then next thing you know, it's like, wow, you just kind of start going with it. And much like you, I mean, I've scripted, written a lot of television commercials, stuff like that for marketing for the business, stuff like that.
Mhm.
And, you know, my first video, I sat down and started to try to write a script to it. And I was like, this is going to suck. I'm not going to do this. And it's just pretty soon, it was like after about 3 or 4 fails, I just kind of threw it aside and I just started talking like you were talking
Yep.
about.
Yep.
And like I said, vehicle EDC is going to be a big part of this channel at some point. And like I say, I was going to lead with that, you know, a lot of that. And life hasn't allowed me to get the content that I wanted to make for that put together. It's coming in spades pretty quick, but I'm really glad because I wanted to get the conversation started. I didn't realize that the primary content would become the conversation though. And I'm
Right.
really happy by that now. I don't know, I'm 8 weeks down the road or whatever now, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you know that we're doing this, you know, and that the lives and the other stuff are performing so well and the feedback's coming off of it, you know, and because those new conversation and are happening and those new friends, you know,
Sure.
are coming out of it and stuff like that. And it's been incredibly rewarding. I've said it on a couple other videos. Boy, if you've ever had a desire to just try this one time, I recommend you do it at least one time
Yeah.
for no other reason than to feel what comes back at you. And as
Yep.
much as I talk with several people about it going into it, I don't think there's any way to be prepared until you just sit down and start doing that first video, much like you were
Nope.
talking about earlier, right? So, yeah.
It was Jared Neve that gave me my first piece of advice. Uh, Before I had a channel, I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. He's like, just grab a knife that you have next to you and hit record and start talking. It's that simple. Don't
Yeah.
overthink it.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about a hardworking guy. You just brought it up. Jared
I
Neve's right there, man.
I
Um,
respect the hustle, man. I
oh
respect the
man.
hustle.
Yeah.
Um, got to that's he's still one of the people when I see him. He's like, it's the Wonder Woman.
I love it.
But yeah, the first live stream I ever did, when Kevin was like, "Hey, you want to come on? I'm gonna have Jared Neve on." I was like, "Oh, great!" You know,
Yeah.
because even 3 years ago, Jared was still one of the larger channels, not like he is now. But it was after we got done the live, Lefty had to bow out. Ended up talking with Jared, and he gave me, all sorts of advice. He's like, "Hey, I'll send you a microphone. I'll send you a couple of knives. If send me a couple of two sons." And it's like, but don't overthink it. If you want to do it, just he's like, you'll figure out. Don't. Everyone wants to worry about, and it's stuff that you do need. It is stuff you will eventually figure it out. But right when you think you got your setup where you want, you're gonna change, and so don't. If you want to start a channel, just start a channel.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of got their own unique spin on things. Everyone's a little bit different. It doesn't matter what you're gonna do. You'll figure it out along the way. You'll find your voice along the way. And Yeah, I love all the channels that pop up. It makes it hard to keep up with.
It really
There
does.
are plenty of people that I wish I could. I'm a binge watcher, like on my flights. I could go, a month without watching someone's channel, but then on a flight, I'll download a bunch of stuff and watch them and get caught up. But yeah, so anyone out there that's thinking about starting a channel, just do it.
Give it a
Why
try.
not?
Yeah.
It's fun.
If you do it once or 1,000 times, doesn't really matter. Just whatever makes you happy.
Yeah,
And I was talking about Zach this last weekend. I was up his direction, and we went out and sat
never
down
heard
and
of her.
had some great conversation. What's that?
Never heard of her.
Never heard of her? Never heard of her? Yeah. Well, maybe we'll invite her on for a conversation sometime.
Yeah,
But but no, we were up there and kind of talking about it, and yeah, it's just amazing how stuff goes full circle. And how stuff seems to work its way out.
yeah.
And yeah,
Uh,
it's just good.
no, I was gonna say, speaking of Zach, it was so I don't know if you remember, but at the Worksharp meetup, when we went back into their little filming where they
Mm-hmm.
do all
There's a little
their
studio.
videos. Me and Zach like did a picture together there,
Mm-hmm.
of us behind the Worksharp desk.
Yeah.
I was like, it's weird, I was like, I was watching Zach stuff, never expected to be considered, and look, I use the term loosely, one of his peers doing it, but yeah, Zach, again, one of the, I think, pillars of the community who does it some of the best, DSKFS all day, every day. The very first channel that ever shouted me out was Zach, followed by a JB again. But it's no surprise. In my opinion, those two folks are the pillars of. I know they are like don't they're just normal dudes, but they've been at it for a long time. I think they do everything the right way, and yeah, I think are a model for a lot of what people do. And
Yeah.
it's also awesome that they're Pacific Northwest brothers.
Very
But
much
yeah,
so.
so I think they're very important people for the community. So,
Yeah. Well, and it's been amazing, since it came up. Obviously, anybody that's kind of been around, just in recent weeks since I started this, it was very intentional that I wanted to kind of almost pay homage to them, pay respect to them, or whatever.
uh,
Because I mean, I'm very fortunate that they were my start into the community. I very much consider them cornerstones. And like we were talking about earlier, we the people we gravitate to early, I think, kind of help shape us a little bit.
mhm.
But they've always been so supportive of everybody, and doing that,
100%.
and quite honestly, I mean, obviously, I know a lot of people that they brought into the community and kept in the community because of who they are. I was surprised, and you were one of them. Within those first few weeks, I had made some comments, and I think it was Pocket Talk number one, that I did with Zach. The comments, the emails, the comments in the videos, the emails, or the Instagram message that I got, saying pocket razors, dude, Zach was my first introduction into the community too. And JB's name came up even before people knew that the second pocket talk was going to be with him.
Right.
And that was really one of the only requirements that I had, kind of scripted goals that I had for this channel. And I didn't know, I didn't have pre-commitments going, but I wanted, when I started this interview series, I wanted them to be one and two.
Hmm.
And beyond that, it was like, now it's just fair game. But I needed to get that out because, and they've been a big part of me being here. And I've just, dozens and dozens of people have shared how both one or the other, or both of them, yourself included, had reached out and shared with me that was in case the fact with them as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you talk about two kind people that love to support this place, and
Yeah.
they do it
And
right.
I mean,
You know.
what's awesome is they end up in our chats too.
Hmm.
I love it when I it's when JB or Zach show up on like a late night with said faction, because look, we get absolutely we're very immature on late night with said faction. When they hop in and start joining in all the shenanigans,
Yeah.
like, oh, we got Zach and JB goofing off with us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's them
They're just
though.
normal dudes too.
They are. We're all just normal dudes,
Yeah.
and they are just so down to earth, and they just honestly love this community, and love giving and sharing and supporting. And I mean, I'll forever be spoiled in the fact that, you know, I had become friends with both of them through the past few years. But Zach was the guy I was kind of bouncing this channel off a lot of, for about 6 weeks or so before it actually came together and actually happened. It was literally the morning of his live stream, and he was like, "Are you getting to do your deal?" I said, "Yeah, go for it. Talk wide open about it. Go ahead. If you want to say something about it, I'm good to go.
Mhm.
I'm ready to roll." He's like, "We're gonna light you up." I had no idea that morning when I woke up that he was gonna do what he did. You talk about getting a brother started right. I mean, the dude lit
Oh
me
yeah.
up. I mean, before I ever put my first piece of content down, that's the kind of people these are. If
Yep.
they know that you're ready to do something, they can support it. They will be there. So, but
Indeed. No,
anyways,
and I think it was a great you know I think for you to start doing these has been awesome. I'm really looking forward to the Sharp Guy episode.
nice.
That's going to be a lot of fun,
Yep.
and yeah, I it's totally different being able to do. I did one of these once. I did the channel chat with JB a while back, and I've done Everyday City Carries podcast. And when you're doing something like this, when you don't have the chat there, you can have this long form conversation. Like, I mean, shoot, we've almost been going 3 hours. I didn't think we were,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. We're about 2 hours, coming up on 2 hours and 10 minutes. Yep.
oh,
So,
it's 2 hours. Okay,
yeah, we're
okay.
about
I thought
2:10
we
on the
were
recorded part. We talked for a little bit before, obviously. So,
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, these are fun. I find them interesting, and yeah, it was, I think, a great idea for you to start doing
awesome.
these.
Yeah, JB's channel chat was very much the inspiration to do these, as we've talked about before. But no, it's just wonderful getting to know people one on one. And like I say, sometimes the chat, keeps bouncing stuff around. Sometimes it's hard to have these kind of conversations in a live environment.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's one thing I will say. It's easy for the chat to heckle the hosts, so to
hmm
speak. It's not, look, it's not the hardest thing to do, but having a conversation with the people that you have on and also following the chat,
yeah,
it's hard to do. So, like when people say you're so far behind comments
it's like,
and
yes,
stuff,
I
like, hey,
am.
hey, 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 calm down. I can't do two things at once. You can't have this kind of
Yeah,
conversation and so sometimes you don't get to have these long form conversations,
correct.
but it's also a lot of fun to interact, and that's like said faction can when or on like Maddest Factions live streams are the goofiest, my funnest hangout times. It's because the chat is just guiding it, every which way,
Right, right.
um so that's why it is different to have a long form conversation like this. That's yeah, I don't know how many people like hearing me talk as much as I do for 2+ hours, but it's been fun.
Yeah, yeah. No, I really enjoyed it as well. And, the plan going into this one, as we talked about, is to do the premiere on it as well, which is we'll be able to
Yeah,
get that chat activity on this as well. And the feedback on that, on the first two or three, has already been really phenomenal. So looking forward to doing that with you. And we'll get that scheduled up
for
here
sure.
pretty quick and try to make that happen. And I've enjoyed meeting you in person several times and meetups. I'm sure
Likewise.
there are more meetups in our future together. I'm looking very much forward. I know that you guys are working on one possibly up north there, and
Yeah,
and,
I got
and
it.
I'm going to do everything I can to get up there when you guys get that ready, and hopefully we'll cross paths, several times in the near future,
Yeah,
with that types of
I
events. So
I'm not going anywhere. I don't think you're going anywhere. So
I'm planning
well,
on
we will definitely, our paths will cross soon. Hopefully, at Blade Show, definitely this year. I loved hearing that you're
yeah.
going to go to that.
Yep,
So,
yep, yep.
but I
I'm
definitely want to try to make it down to the Redmond Bend area with you guys too.
That'd be
So,
awesome if you can work that in your schedule. We'd love to have
yep,
that. Obviously, will probably be some word on the street, by the time that this airs. But I think this should be out before that happens too. So, by all
cool.
means, reach out, send an Instagram, send an email, to pocketrazors@gmail.com or at pocket_razors on Instagram. If you have any interest in that, by all means, reach out. But as we're getting ready to kind of wind this thing down and get headed off to bed so we can go be productive adults tomorrow,
Right.
let's not forget a few things. If for some reason you're not subscribed to Stevie's channel, get over there, sign up. You need to be seeing this guy's content. It said Stevie over on YouTube, also on Instagram. Show the man some love. Get over to the edcroundtable.com and go get some of these great beard products from Stevie and some of the other makers, Joe and some of the other crew over there, and Forrest and all those guys over there. Support that cause for them, please.
Lancelot Leather, Forrest Hanks, Jack Slong's EDC, Chromatic EDC, and Said Stevie. It's a
Very good.
killer lineup.
Yep. And Stevie, congratulations on 2 years. You guys are right on
Thank
top
you.
of celebrating that anniversary as we do this interview here.
Yep.
And congratulations to everybody that's been a part of that with you guys. And looking for many more years of content from you
Thank you.
and stuff from the EDC Roundtable. So, but yeah, get in there, guys. Hit Stevie up, subscribe, like, hit the notifications. Do the same to this channel too if you haven't already, please. And
Absolutely.
I thank you, sir, very much for taking time to come and do this with me. It's a pleasure. You were one of the first people, along with Zach and JB, that I got to meet and got to know in this community, and very much a pleasure. And you were very much one of the first people that I reached out to. And thank you for accepting the invitation and being here and spending this time with me today. So
Appreciate the opportunity, man, and feelings mutual. So
You
Thank you very
betcha.
much.
You betcha. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to get out of here. And my guess is we can probably get Stevie to throw up a deuces there. I'm going to give you guys a peace out, and we will see you guys next time. You guys take care.
Deuces.
Love you guys. There you go. Deuces.